From aliens to zombies and everything in between, this is Paranormal A to Z.
Good evening, night crawlers, daywalkers, steak barriers, and embarrassing mid-50s moms. For today's weirdness, we're talking about the biggest switch in fan-base loyalty since the Star Wars prequels, vampires. Are you excited about this, Austin?
I'm excited, but not as excited as the woman whose article we're about to read today.
Oh, yes. This is one of my favorite things. Horrible Craigslist ads, as everybody knows. Please take this away. I am so excited for this.
Alright, so perusing the internet, we stumbled across this gem. This was posted on weekendweird.com, and this is a Craigslist article from a woman living in Salt Lake City. So I'll just go ahead and read the article, and we'll kind of jump into the topic today.
Oh, yeah.
But, hi, I am a 24-year-old female, and I have a fantastic body. I can stay at the weight I'm in no matter what I eat or drink. I don't get hungover. I'm in shape, and I look great. Only problem is, death is coming for me. I mean, death is coming for us all, but I'm exploring other options. I really like the way my body is right now, so I guess I need to become immortal? If you're a vampire, I'll hire you to turn me into a vampire as well. There's an asterisk here. This first asterisk, I don't care what religion you are. If you're the murder me and reawaken me kind, that's fine. If you're a I drink from your blood, then you drink from mine kind, that's fine. And if you're another kind completely, that's totally cool. The first asterisk was not looking for vampires who still age. What the hell is up with that?
What is up with that?
Well, we'll start talking about that here in a moment. The second point, the second asterisk here. If the portion of my blood that you get to drink in the process of turning me isn't enough, I'll pay up to $20. If you want, we could be Creature of the Night friends after you turn me. Or if you'd rather have it be a one-turn kind of night of thing, that's cool too. The second asterisk, if it requires weird sex stuff, that's cool. Just warn me beforehand so I can shave. Guess it's a fair thing to ask for. And the third asterisk, side note, a dramatic dark romance between us would be sick. Although, I'm gay, so I'm only looking for a woman if we're talking love eternal. If you're a lesbian vamp, hit me up. And the third asterisk was, I promise I won't be clingy just because you turned me. I get it.
I think we're looking at here, quite possibly, the most down-to-earth nut job on Craigslist. I mean, this is a woman who is so self-centered, but still completely gets it. It's like, yeah, you want to turn me, and I get that, but, I won't be clingy. It's not like, we're in a real relationship or something. All you did was turn me immortal to some sort of soulless creature of the night. No big deal. I get it if you want to go on your own separate way.
She could present it like that, but when we look at stories of vampires, and if you create one, it really automatically becomes a very strange relationship.
Oh, extremely.
It becomes a father-son, mother-daughter, it's a parent-sibling combination that is also sometimes oriented with sex, and it's weird, and, she can't expect, like, this very straightforward kind of, like, I'm going to turn you, then walk out of your life, or just kind of be friends with you. I think it's always much darker and more psychotic than that.
Oh, it has to be. And just like, the way she prefaced this is like, she doesn't want to become a vampire because the vampire culture or like the idea of being a vampire is particularly appealing. She's doing this because she thinks she looks hot, and she doesn't want that to change. So she's like in this state right now where she's like, I look great, I gotta preserve this. How do I do it? Diet and exercise? Nope. Death's still coming for me. The only thing I can do is become immortal, and the only way I know how to become immortal is to become a vampire.
It's a perfectly, step-by-step logical progression of what you need to do to preserve that perfect body that you have right now.
Right, but ideally what she's looking for is another hot lesbo vampire so that she can bite her and they can have like creepy, weird lesbian vampire blood sex, whatever that entails. I mean, it sounds very cool. I don't know. Not like something I've forayed typically deep into. But I think that's a great segue into talking about this culture of vampirism, because it made a very, very drastic shift, as I alluded to earlier. It went from this creepy, dark, mythological Bela Lugosi with a sharp widow's peak and an old dank castle up on a hill in Transylvania to being this glorified, glammy, sparkle in the sunshine, pretty boy Robert Pattinson thing with like mid-50s moms and teenage girls just like going crazy about this new age vampire that don't hurt people, are vegetarians, and just drink blood from animals for their basic sustenance.
And still not being a vegetarian.
No, it's not, but like it's I don't know what you'd call it. It's definitely not a pescatarian. I don't think they have any interest in eggs or fish or anything like that. But then again, I didn't think vampires ate food, period. I thought they just drank blood to sustain themselves, which makes sense, from a scientific perspective if you'd like to inject that into this ridiculous sort of story.
Oh, why don't we?
No, but we'll get to that. But yeah. So the vampire culture is this weird, like, gothy, wear black, go to shop at Hot Topic, black nail polish, like really light makeup, those weird color contact lenses, and like prosthetic fangs. And like people who are into the Twilight series, which are you a fan of the Twilight series?
No.
Neither am I. I hold steadfast that there's quite possibly the worst series of books ever produced, at least in the sort of fantasy vampirism genre, if you want to sort of wall it off there. I got a copy of one of these because I was traveling. I was flying home to Cleveland, Ohio, and I was talking to a girl who was very into these things. She was all about them. She's trendy sort of stuff, not like fantasy novels or anything like that in particular. But
so you picked up a copy immediately as a talking point for this potential love interest of yours.
Exactly. Why not have something to talk about? Not realizing that this is ridiculous. Like I had seen like the posters and stuff, but I had never actually like seen the movies. And I knew my mom was a fan in passing, but my mom's a fan of some cool stuff too. She likes Game of Thrones. She likes Breaking Bad. Like she has good taste. So maybe it's not the worst thing. I started reading this, and it dawned on me that this is like a first-person role play for women to insert themselves into some love fantasy with this 100-year-old vampire who's dating a high school girl, and somehow that's okay because he looks like he's 16.
Well, I mean, it's the idea that while they're immortal, I mean, they were turned at a certain age, and they don't age, which also ties back to the woman's who wrote the article. Her one point that she's not looking for vampires who still age, and what the hell is up with that?
Right.
I have never heard of a vampire aging.
Right, I've heard that the actors that play vampires in movies, they age because
they become decrepit and terrifying.
Did you see Gary Oldman in the Dracula movie? Do you remember what he looked like in the opening scenes? He had like weird white, like two big cornrows almost that were like wrapped around, like these weird braids around his head. It was very odd. Very old Dracula.
Absolutely.
And then Bela Lugosi in like the original Dracula. Well, not necessarily the original. I guess you could argue that Nosferatu was probably the original vampirism movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, but I know what you mean. When you're thinking of vampire, you don't think like you might think in a kind of romantic way, because they are romanticized a little bit. This idea of immortality.
Absolutely.
This idea of like whenever you read vampire stories and things like that, there's always the attractive, sexually appetizing vampiric women, and they're always nearly nude or nude, like coming into your room at night. It's a fantasy lust fest.
Oh yeah, and the other way is that these male vampires do these things like they appear in windows too, and they do these weird calls to the women like, "I'm in the night, I'm mysterious," and for some reason that like hypnotizes them. They're like, "Yes, you are mysterious, you are in the night," despite the fact that you're a blood-sucking, soulless, quasi-ethereal being that lives forever. And there's no way upon deconstruction that is a favorable lifestyle. I mean, once you've like hit the 200-year mark, like you've seen enough shit, you're probably like, all right, enough's enough already. I've been wearing this cape and parting my hair this way for so many years. Like, I don't know how much further I can take this.
Well, I mean, the cape's a staple. You gotta wear a cape.
And the it's usually like a crevasse or like a small
very
red,
solid, family-oriented brooch.
Oh, absolutely! It's always
tie that cape together.
Very proud and very pronounced upon your chest.
Absolutely, that brooch, that formal cape, not your everyday cape, and then a very pronounced widow's peak where you can possibly cut something with it. It's so sharp.
Oh, you could spear an apple on that thing.
And that's the Hollywood-styled look of what we think a vampire should look like.
So obviously, it needed to be completely revamped for a new generation. Ha, get it?
Revamped.
Oh boy,
we had that pun.
Woo! It was completely unintentional.
Yes, it was. Look what you did.
It's okay. But like, they started shopping in American Apparel and driving silver Volvos and existing in the sunshine, which I thought was a staple of vampire destruction, was the sunlight.
Absolutely, but everything you just described is probably the most terrifying aspects of American life.
It is. Maybe it's an allegory for that. I somehow doubt it. I feel like that culture is too shallow for that.
Sunbathing, Volvos, American Apparel.
And how about, and on top of that, the complete disregard for the mythology's staples. Now, if you're going to revamp, did it again,
twice.
Completely unintentional. If you're going to bring these things back, these creatures with these sets of rules, you have to abide by them because you didn't create the idea. I think that there's some creative license you can take, you can alter them, but the sunlight, I think, is one of the staples of vampire killing, which I'm about to go over. So, other from sunlight, there's also the wooden stake to the heart.
Yes.
There's the silver, the sensitivity to silver. Mm-hmm. Burning them.
Yes.
And decapitation.
Yes, that's
another
one.
Those are all completely valid. Now, I was originally thinking crucifix, and garlic as well, but as I dove into it further, I found that these are not ways to actually kill a vampire. These are merely vampire repellents.
Yes, the apotropaics.
Correct.
For vampires. I mean, you have a whole bunch of them too, and they go way back in folklore. Like on here, we have garlic as a common example, but also we have the branch of a wild rose and hawthorn.
Really?
Are said to harm them.
Interesting.
Sprinkling mustard seeds on the roof of a house.
Just anything you got laying around in the fridge, or like garlic, mustard, whatever. It'll all work.
Any condiments will do. Then you have like the supposed sacred items. Now these happen to be specifically Christian.
Not surprising.
But you have a crucifix, a rosary, holy water.
Right, the holy water. That should be a destruction method.
Well, and here it's listed as an apotropaic, so it might be a deterrent.
Oh, just like the... Really, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, it might be the thing where if you have holy water, it's never assumed that you have enough holy water to just dump them into it and kill them.
Well, there's never like a bathtub of holy water to like shove Dracula into.
Well, it would be convenient if you just had one.
Well, I don't have one. I barely even use my own tub at home, let alone fill it up and then have my local pastor come over and bless it just in case Dracula tries to sack me in the bathroom.
Well, I mean, if you're not using it, put it to use. Fill it with holy water, have your local pastor come over, ask him how he's doing, ask him to bless the tub full of water, tell him to don't ask further questions, and kindly ask him to leave.
I'm sure he's going to have a couple of questions.
Oh, you don't need to answer
one or two. And he also, like... You can't imagine that, like, inviting a pastor over to your apartment is going to go over particularly well with my neighbors. They're going to think something's going on. Like, whether my place is haunted, or I've answered a Craigslist ad as a 13-year-old male. I mean, there's a lot of possibility. Yeah, we went down there.
Oh, boy. But aside from even the holy water, we have more here. Some of the ones that I'm familiar with here, they're unable to walk on consecrated grounds, so they can't go into churchyards, cemeteries, anything that's considered holy. Again, another specifically religious-oriented aspect of this.
Right.
Crossing running water. I haven't been able to figure out what that pertains to specifically.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I was thinking back to Nosferatu, and there was another one, which is they have to be buried in their home soil as well. Like, that can kill them, I believe. I think that's part of it. But what I was thinking was, he came over from the Transylvanian country on a boat. He got onto a boat and crossed an ocean. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm not mistaken, an ocean is always moving. The planet is rotating, the water is moving. I mean, there's still water, like lakes, I suppose. So, can they walk across lakes? Can they get on boats on Lake Tahoe? Is that okay?
I don't know if they can walk across lakes. They might be able to fly over a lake, or if they transform into a bat. Again, we are listing apotropaics and killing methods of vampires, which none have been proven. I mean, these are all hearsay conjecture about, like, this is what we've learned from watching popular, like, Hollywood movies and some, like, tales from the 1800s about vampires, which were taken from southeastern Europe and places like that, and, you know, expounded upon.
Right, really popularized by the Bram Stoker novel.
Absolutely.
It's extremely popular. I read that quasi recently, too. It's slow paced, but it's very creepy. It's got a very dreary, dark atmosphere.
Absolutely. And, I mean, another one of the popularized apotropaics of keeping vampires away is they can't come into your home openly.
Unless you invite them.
But you only have to invite them once.
Right,
So, you know...
If you think that one of your close friends may be a vampire, it's already too late. You've probably already invited them in.
And as the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, you're a vampire. Curse you, you wretched creature of the night.
You soulless, immortal being, what have you done to me?
Common saying. But,
well, of course, I say that daily. Every time someone enters my home, which is not often. That's okay.
Absolutely, but some of the, like, even the crazier things are, if you're looking at traditional beliefs of vampires, like, the lengths and methods people went to make sure a potential vampire didn't come back from the dead are sometimes they're crazy. Like, they would have preemptively, like, driven a stake through the chest of somebody, or they would have buried the body with the casket with, like, sickles and stuff in place. So if a vampire or a revenant, as some people say, which is an evil spirit, to enter the body and bring them back, they'd immediately get cut if they tried to move.
Oh my!
Just crazy, like, preemptive things that they would do, or some believe that burying a body upside down prevented it. Like, in each culture, they have a specific way of dealing with how to keep vampires from coming back.
Now, I'm wondering where this all stems from, because it has to be some sort of folklore, but I feel like one of the main characteristics of human existence is the way we treat our dead. We're very, very specific about the ceremonies involved, how we treat dead bodies, people who have passed, dating back as far as humans have existed. I mean,
absolutely.
The most famous, I believe, at least as far as past cultures goes, are the Egyptians, and the painstaking process of mummification in preparation for an afterlife.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was with mummification, especially of pharaohs and people of high regard in that society. Not only did you have the actual painstaking practice of mummification, which involved removing organs, the actual wraps, the preservation, but you also had the elaborate ceremonies that went into it. You had the sarcophagi, which was crafted and painted, and the hieroglyphics that went on all of those were instructions and spells and things to keep them protected and safe when they crossed over. The tombs that were created for them, again, covered in hieroglyphs, some of them as preventive wards from people, like putting curses on people who entered the tomb. Others as more instructions for how to cope with the life beyond this. And then the actual, like, the procession to get there, they were always carried down on a funeral barge down the Nile to where they were buried. I mean,
very involved.
Very involved. And that's just putting it mildly, with how certain cultures, took the time to honor their dead.
Absolutely.
So if a culture takes a long time to honor their dead, then they must also have like worries about like, what if we do this wrong? What'll happen?
I think they had a pretty good idea of what would happen, at least what they thought would happen, which was, the resurrection, reincarnation of a dead body as a vengeful spirit who was always out to harm other people. I think that was the thing, and was always portrayed with vampires, is that they're going to come back and they're going to get you.
Absolutely.
And it's weird because when they do get you, it doesn't destroy you, it doesn't end your life, it creates another vampire. It's almost as if, join me in death, because misery does love company.
And I'm lonely.
And I mean, eternity will get lonely. You don't have company, you better pack a lunch, because it's a long time, all your friends are going to die. It's not cool. And
I've waited at a BMV too, Zach. I know.
We've waited at BMVs together.
Yes, and it is an eternity. And friends have died, and we've made it through.
We did, but we didn't see any vampires.
Are you sure?
I wasn't looking. Were you?
No, but I can't say none of those people in there weren't a vampire. Have you been to the BMV?
I have been to the BMV. It's always been during the day, and no one was sparkling. So I think that would have caught my eye. But, makeup is an amazing thing that I do not understand. Every girlfriend I've had has had treasure chests filled with makeup, and I still don't know what any of it does, or what it means, or why. So maybe they're just, hiding in plain sight, which is, if I were a vampire, that's what I would be doing.
Absolutely. But the sparkling brings us back to the article itself, which is, this woman seems to specifically want to be dating one of those modern-styled vampires.
She wants to date Robert Pattinson. I think that's what she really wants. I think her lesbianism is a cover for her undying love for the Twilight series.
If her sexuality dictates that she wants to be a vampire, that's kind of weird. But I think it's more of her. She, like you said at the beginning, she has this wanted need to keep herself as she is. She thinks that this is the best I'm ever going to be, and it's only downhill from here at 24. And fuck that.
Getting old, becoming dignified. Yes, your body is going to age. The news flash is, people were never supposed to live as long as they do these days. And it's only because of modern medicine and new medical practices that we've been able to keep people alive for so long. So yeah, you are going to peak at a certain point, and then yes, you will deteriorate. But that doesn't mean you have to start putting up Craigslist ads for mythical creatures to come suck your blood.
No, but I have put up Craigslist ads for mythical creatures already. So.
The Griffin will be here any day. I'm sure he will.
Pegasus, Griffins.
Centaurs.
Are you a lonely centaur who's looking for a good companion? Well, I might be that person for you.
I'm also a vampire. Centaur, vampire, unicorn. There's probably a dating site for that, and there's probably a counterculture group fighting for the rights of vampiric centaur unicorns, feeling that they're unfairly just categorized as misunderstood creatures. They are not as evil as you think they are, and this girl would like to be one of them, I think. I think the more mythicality you could inject into her life, the better.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's shall we dissect this article some and see if we can find her ideal vampiric match?
Absolutely, let's do that.
Okay, so she wants to be who she is now. So she wants to be immortal. All right, so her first cop out was not looking for vampires who still age. What the hell is up with that? Okay, well, I think from as far as I understand, vampire mythology and folklore stories, I've never came across a story about a vampire who's not eternal.
Right. They always seem to have that common side effect of being vampiric, that they will live forever. But what is the need for the blood sustenance then? That's what I always wondered. And that was always just kind of like a contradiction. It's okay, you live forever, but you still get hungry.
Yeah.
It's a little interesting.
Well, with any story, you need a cop-out to drive things.
Right, of course. They got to be coming after something you have, and blood is very precious.
What a boring folklore story. Hey, that guy's immortal. He wants nothing.
He just wants to be left alone.
I'm just going to hang out here for a while. Can't die. Kind of sucks. Whatever.
It sounds like that could be like a good Wes Anderson movie, like The Misunderstood Immortal Man. Like the spry young child with the black framed glasses goes over there, and he's like, I want to understand you. And at first he's adverse to it, like, no, kid, no one will understand me. I'm immortal, and that sucks. I've lost everyone I love, and over time, I just have become completely callous to the world. And the kid starts having fun with him, and then eventually gets his youth back. They play baseball together, and then, like, probably ends up getting the kid, like, a date for prom, and then some crappy indie song starts playing, and the credits roll.
That movie.
It's that movie, I've already just, like, gone through it in my head. I'm sure somebody else in Hollywood has already thought this up and just needs the right casting and funding for it.
But I mean, that first point still brings up this question: like, does immortality mean not aging?
I mean, it can. It means you can't die. But then if you age, that means your body composition is still breaking down. So does that mean at a certain point you're just going to be a walking skeleton?
I think this is what ties in the blood sustenance.
It's to maintain the physical form, because they'll just, like, shamble into nothingness.
Yeah, I think that's what ties in the whole idea of needing the lifeblood, the life force of people to keep yourself going.
That's where that plot point in Hocus Pocus came from. They had to suck the youth out of the children, making them drink that potion.
When in doubt, turn to Hocus Pocus for your answers on the supernatural.
Just turn to Bette Midler movies in general, and you get your answers.
Oh, man. I will from now on, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So the second point here, so going through this again, I don't care what religion you are. If you're the murder me, then reawaken me kind, that's fine. If you're the I drink from your blood, then you drink from mine kind, that's fine. And if you're another kind completely, that's cool too. I don't see why she wrote all of that.
Neither do I. It seems kind of long-winded.
It's long-winded to just say, I don't care what kind of vampire you are, just be a vampire.
Just be a vampire who doesn't age. Because there are conditions here.
Yeah.
But the main condition being, please be a vampire. Now, as far as religions goes, I have a hard time believing that vampires are religious at all. I feel like a big part of vampire deterrent are religious, like you said, anointed things. The word you used.
It was apotropaic.
Yeah, and anything that, like, a cross, blessed water, moving water, which isn't religious, but you'd think that, like, if they had a physical aversion to religious objects, they'd be religionless creatures. And it sort of seems that, like, a god, if there was one, would forsake a creature like this. I think that's, like, a big part of it, too, is that people believe that if you become a vampire, you become immortal, your soul is somehow compromised. It has to be. Yeah,
but it also brings in this really interesting this internal struggle that, what if you were a religious person before you returned? It's not. Some people aren't, like, in vampire stories, but I can't imagine, like, if vampires did exist, like, you can't always assume that the person being turned was a willing participant in the whole game that was going on there. It could have been just a bystander who's like, oh, happened to be, like, he's lunch, and it just kind of happened.
Absolutely.
And it could have been a pious person beforehand. So, I mean, it's an interesting notion that while religious, like, specifically Christian religious artifacts hurt people, what if you were a Christian? Like,
and you wore a cross around your neck, like, by default. That was just something you did.
Yeah, so what happens then? Like, you still view yourself as a child of God. Your spirituality is still there, but now you're this abomination.
Right.
It brings up a really interesting internal conflict that could be happening there with people who, if that happened.
The suicidal vampire. The emo vampire. No one understands me. I'm a Christian vampire. I still want to go to Mass. Every time I try to go there, no one invites me in. My body will not physically allow me to walk into a church.
Mm-hmm. You have these struggles sometimes.
Just imagine, like, a really, like, despondent, bad vampire, like, trying to, like, take his own vampiric life somehow and failing, like, trying to, like, run head first into, like, a wood picket fence and failing at it.
I can't do it! Not because I don't want to, I can't do it!
That could be another Craigslist ad. It's like, no, vampire looking to die. Will you help me? Will you be my angel of death? Will you be my Kevorkian?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I hope they're able to find someone to do that for them if they ever reach that point.
I love that we're reaching this far.
But also they don't care what religion they are. So fine, they can be whatever vampiric religion they want to be.
Sure.
Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Taoist.
Shlomo the Jewish Vampire. The worst children's book ever written.
You think I can have some of your blood?
Nah, come on, have a bagel, have a schmear.
No.
My God.
But I'm confused on the she lists here like 2 processes of becoming a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
She specifically lists the murder me then reawaken me kind, and then there's the also I drink from your blood then you drink from mine kind. Like, apparently I miss portions of vampires movies. I don't specifically remember the latter of those 2.
Neither do I. I remember the biting and the sort of like infection process of becoming a vampire. That like a puncture wound from the mouth on the collarbone clavicle area. Mm-hmm. Once the blood has been drawn from you and the fluids from the vampire's mouth have been transmitted into you, you are a vampire. You don't have to in turn go back and bite the vampire who bit you. That actually sounds similar to the curation method of werewolves, whereas if a werewolf finds the original werewolf who bit them and you eat his heart, you cease to be a werewolf. Where you would think that, like, finding the vampire who bit you and drinking his blood may somehow reverse the process, not be a critical step in the turning process.
Yeah. And I think both of these are very similar. Like the idea of the murder me then reawaken me, or the I drink from your blood then you drink from mine. I think this more or less is tied into the way you said it was. It's that I am draining you of your lifeblood and then possibly re-injecting you with this. I think these are one and the same. I think this is you are murdering me,
right?
But I'm also you drank from me, and then you're giving it back to me. Not necessarily like you're sharing a drink of my, like you extracted my blood, put it in a chalice, and we're drinking it together. Like
that would be extremely strange.
It's a weird dinner party.
It's a strange date.
But I think it's almost one and the same, to be honest. But like the caveat to this was if it requires weird sex stuff, that's cool. Just be warned beforehand so I can shave.
Yeah, which is very funny. But I've never once seen a sexually transmitted vampire disease. That's, entirely possible.
I think she's saying here like, hey, does your turning process require weird sex stuff?
Fine, whatever it takes. I will put my sexuality to the side.
How many answers to this posting do you think she got with people like, of course it requires weird sex stuff. That's the only way to turn somebody.
You're clearly out of the loop on the modern vampire process. Those Twilight movies are dog shit. Which, by the way, the sex scenes in the Twilight movies are fucking hilarious. He literally is afraid that he's going to fuck her to death before he turns her.
How terrifying.
That's ridiculous. I mean, that's not even... Yeah.
I don't understand the level of intimacy that takes to be okay with that.
If you're listening to this and you haven't seen that, I'm sure it's on YouTube. Look up the scene where, I forget what it is, but Edward and Bella have sex for the first time. Edward is grabbing like the headboard, and I believe not only is he destroying the bed, parts of the wall behind the bed are crumbling, like San Andreas, like the fault is shifting and like the the house has been compromised, which is intense.
It is intense, but that's exactly like that scene.
Right. Well, that's the only way to really convey love once you become 100 years old.
I think that description conveys a lot about Twilight and the disaster movie it was.
Yeah. It was a disaster movie. It was also unintentionally laugh out loud funny.
Which was great.
Well, I appreciate unintentional hilarity very much.
It is good for that. If anything else, it is great for unintentional hilarity. And then I think the last portion she's asking here, if the portion of my blood that you get to drink in the process turning me isn't enough, I'll pay you $20. I'm glad that
it's a stipend.
It's a stipend. Like, hey, you didn't get to drink enough from me. You're probably not nourished enough. I'm going to give you $20. I don't know what you can do with that. Maybe get an Uber home.
At least. I mean, like, I think a vampire is in least need of an Uber. Just turn into a bat, fly away. Which, interesting animal choice. If you're going to turn into anything, I wouldn't choose the one flying animal that has the worst eyesight you could possibly have.
Well,
Can echolocate your way home.
Echolocate your way home. That's fine. I just like the idea of ending the date early in the morning and him saying, good night, and then he, like with a cape up over his face, walks over to the Uber driver waiting in your driveway.
Rah!
Take me back to this address.
Woo! Whatever, buddy. You got it, man.
Use this 20 I was just given. It's good.
Ooh.
And then the last, or more towards the end here, if you want, we could be creature of the night friends after you turn me. Or if you'd rather have it be a one-night turn kind of thing, that's cool too. So, I mean, again, with like this, like the maybe Hollywoodized version of vampire stories and everything, usually it's the vampire creates a child, but then the bond between them is very powerful.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not sure if there's just a lot of abandoned vampire children out there who don't know who their masters are or whoever returned them, their parent. But from everything from how like culture has depicted it, it's always a very strong emotional bond. It's something you create. Are you laughing at the idea of orphan vampires?
I really am. Just like kicking around rocks out in the schoolyard with their little capes and their widow's peaks, and the other kids like pushing them down like freak. And deservedly so. I mean, it's not like it's a physical deformity or something like that. It's just a very unfortunate circumstance that you are a vampire.
Now you know how Eddie from the Munsters felt.
I mean, he slept in a drawer.
Oh.
That kid did not have a good sleeping situation. Had a very pleasantly supportive family.
Very supportive and a very impressive widow's peak.
Oh, extremely. Grandpa, also, great widow's peak. Eddie's was, my gosh, it was like the top of a spade on a playing card. It was monumental.
But I mean, she's cool at not being clingy if you don't want to have like that whole relationship with her, if you don't want to have like the father or mother-daughter kind of vampiric relationship you have when you create a child.
Right. And there's another relationship too, I believe. If I remember from one of the Twilight movies, if I remember correctly, Bella and Edward's son or daughter. No, yeah, there's a daughter. Is one of those? I think technically like a halfling sort of thing.
A hybrid.
Yeah, a hybrid vampire. And Taylor Lautner's character, Jacob, the werewolf, he sees this baby, and it immediately like shimmers, and it goes into like this Dreamweaver sort of like sequence where he is like, I think like a 18 to 20-year-old male, sees this infinitesimal child and immediately falls in love with it.
It's creepy.
It's extremely creepy.
There's nothing more than it's creepy.
It's extremely creepy, and I think like the whole that's why this is so endearing to some people, is because like there's all this like risque, weird sexual tension behind these creatures. This girl's clearly looking for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Some risque lesbian vampire sex and love eternal.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. But I think we can help her with this. I mean, to be fair, I don't think you're going to find a vampire who ages.
No,
I think you can cross that off your list. You're good.
Yeah, one less thing to worry about.
I think the turning process should be pretty straightforward, and it shouldn't require weird sex stuff. So if you get prompted that it's going to require weird sex stuff, that should be a red flag.
It really should, and she should know better. She clearly has not done her research here.
Not like we have.
No, of course not.
We spent minutes,
actual moments. And our search engines really looking, somewhat researching this completely pseudo idea of vampirism,
and giggling a lot.
Oh, this is beyond giggling. We found this. I was giggling on the outside, but on the inside, I was like, "This ad is better than most of the dating profiles I had looked at when I was doing online dating. Like this girl would probably get like a left swipe, more than likely."
Left swiper. Left swipe.
Yeah, absolutely. You get the green circle.
And then the last part here, she's totally cool with the, non-traditional parent-child relationship that are like vampires. So, I mean, you could turn her and leave her.
Yeah, she's really cool with that. It's kind of, really, it's using the vampire, honestly. Like, at points I was thinking, like, man, like, if this vampire was, like, looking for more of a long-term thing, like, he'd be kind of depressed. Like, I found someone who understands my plight, and all you want to do is use the one thing I have left, and then leave. Because if you're a male vampire who had all these qualifications, you might be looking at, like, if I bite her, I know me. I know how I am. I'm going to get attached, and I'm not going to be able to let this go. I can't.
It's going to have the cops called on him.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear that 911 call. 911 dispatch.
I'm just picturing two police officers showing up at the door knocking and her answering and be like, he won't get out. And he's like, well, she invited me in. I can stay now. It's a one-time thing.
Sir, you're trespassing on this woman's property. And they just pelt him with garlic until he leaves.
Man, cops always carry garlic.
Oh, at least pepper spray. I don't know. That wasn't listed here on my list of vampire deterrents, but it's garlic.
It might be on there.
It's probably most seasoning. It's definitely condiments. We talked about mustard seeds, which just...
As long as you got a condiment, vampires beware.
Of course. Oh, I know I'm going to have fun tonight spraying every condiment I have from my fridge over everything I own.
Well, that should be an effective deterrent from keeping those vampires away.
Yeah, well, that's the idea.
Absolutely. Don't want them getting in. Make sure you don't invite one in on accident.
Oh, no. I don't even want to know what's going to happen if they knock and I say no.
Just throw a fuss out in the hallway.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody, I'm Austin.
And I'm Zach. And when looking for a love eternal, go with vampire. It's probably your safest bet.
Hello, everyone. This is Austin Sashko filling in for the outro this week as our regular reader is feeling a little bit under the weather. Paranormal A to Z is written and produced by Zach Shanes and Austin Sashko. Most of this week's dialogue was scrawled on a cocktail napkin and shoved into a random back pocket, which we later found and used. The opening theme is Ascension by Ruled by Reason. You can access their music on their Facebook page, facebook.com/Ruled by Reason. All cited articles and references will be linked onto a2zparanormal.podomatic.com. You can also access and share the show on our YouTube page. For paranormal updates, articles, and general weirdness, follow our Twitter, @ParanormalA2Z. You know what makes this show possible and keeps our medieval notes filled with alligators who have wooden stakes for teeth, and allows us to keep our roofs covered in mustard seeds to keep the vampires at bay? You. Thank you for listening and supporting the strange. And remember, be as normal as paranormal allows.